Okay, what we're going to look at here are interdependent relationships in an ecosystem. This should be a review. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. So in an ecosystem, many organisms interact to survive, and the way species interact depends on the availability of resources. So resources are limited, especially energy, which is something we've been talking about for the last few days. Energy is limited, and so species are going to interact to try to get these limited resources. Now, interdependent relationships in an ecosystem refer to the ways in which organisms and their environment interact and rely on one another for survival and function. So if you think about an easy example to conceptualize, humans. We rely on other organisms for our own survival. We eat other organisms, plants and animals, for energy. Plants provide plants provide oxygen that we use for breathing, and that's another way of generating energy. So organisms rely on other organisms in order to survive. Now, there are 6 types of interdependent relationships that we're going to discuss, and I'll just list them here. So there's competition, there's mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, predator-prey relationships, and decomposition. Now, I wrote those pretty fast, so you can pause here if you want to write that down. I'm going to keep going. So we're going to look at these all in a little bit more detail. And on our Google Classroom, I posted some videos that give you some more specific examples. So competition is an interaction between organisms or species in an ecosystem in which both require a limited resource. Now, at the end of the day, that limited resource is energy. So we're always competing for energy. Now, some of the things in an ecosystem specifically that organisms might compete for: food. So 2 different types of organisms eat the same food source, or within a population. They eat the same type of food, and so they have to compete for that. Space. So again, protection and shelter and having enough food source. Organisms often are competing for the same space. And especially when it comes to plants, light. Now, all of these relate to competition for energy. And that's what this whole unit is kind of getting at, that the way that energy flows through an ecosystem is really important. Okay. Now, let's talk about mutualism. Now, mutualism, I wrote, is a type of competition, but I think a better word would just be relationship, because mutualism doesn't involve necessarily competition. Mutualism is when two or more species benefit from each other's actions. Bees and pollen is a really good example. So bees get nutrients, plants get reproduction. Another one is gut bacteria in humans. So in your intestines are bacteria, and those bacteria are actually really good for us because they help humans digest food. In return, the gut bacteria get the nutrients that we're consuming, so they get to have some of our nutrients. But it's a positive relationship because humans get help with digestion. And again, the videos I'll post give more really good examples. One is the sea anemone and clownfish, and there are a couple others. Okay, next let's talk about parasitism. So with parasitism or parasites, one organism benefits at the expense of another. This specifically, they have to be different species. So this would be one organism gets nutrients at the expense of another organism. You interact with parasites all the time. Mosquitoes could be considered a parasite where they get nutrients from your blood and you get nothing in return, but you also can get irritation or itchiness. Tapeworm and mammals. Tapeworms can lodge themselves in your intestines and eat your nutrients, but they don't give anything back in return. So that the tapeworm gets nutrients at the expense of the dog, cat, human, whoever has that tapeworm. Again, I'll post a video, I'll post a video with other really good examples. And then last we have commensalism. Commensalism is where one organism benefits while the other is neither harmed nor helped. So one organism gets a benefit, the other doesn't really care. It doesn't help them or hurt them either way. Again, I'll post videos with some examples, but an owl in a tree would be an example. The owl gets shelter from a hollowed out portion of a tree. The tree doesn't really care. It doesn't harm the tree that the owl is sitting in there. So that's a commensalism relationship. And again, there are other examples. Okay. Predator-prey relationships are something that you're probably familiar with. A predator feeds on prey. Now, you may not think intuitively that there's benefit to this, but there's a major benefit to an ecosystem with this type of relationship. So this type of relationship helps regulate population sizes and maintain balance. In an ecosystem. So for example, sometimes this happens in Wisconsin where the deer population gets out of control, and that's because there aren't enough predators to feed on those deer, whether it's wolves or whatever might be hunting them. So if the deer population gets out of control, then they can eat too many of the resources and it can really disrupt the balance in the ecosystem. So the predator-prey relationship really helps maintain balance of all of the resources that are essential for all of the organisms in an ecosystem. Okay, last relationship we're going to discuss are decomposers. Decomposers break down dead organic material or organic matter, recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem. This especially supports plant growth. So decomposers are key to a term that I already wrote, nutrient recycling. Which ensures key elements such as nitrogen and phosphorus are available to plants. So, these are the 6 types of interdependent relationships that I want you to be familiar with. And what I want you to remember is all of these interactions have to do with balance of energy and resources in an ecosystem.